Great to have you with us. My name is Daniel Dazi. Now, there's growing pressure on the Ghana Police Service to put out the identity of a group of security operatives who caused violence during the Ayawaso West Wogon by-election yesterday, Thursday, January 31. Now, pockets of heavily built and masked armed men in pickups were seen launching attacks on a number of NDC supporters who had gathered at the home of their parliamentary candidate in that by-election, Delali Kwesi Brimpong. Civil society groups such as the Coalition for Domestic Election Observers, CODEO, and the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, and the Foundation for Security and Development in Africa, FOSTA, have separately issued statements to condemn the actions of these unidentified security operatives. FOSTA, for instance, is demanding an explanation of yesterday's incident from the Interior Minister, Ambrose Derry. The National Peace Council has not been too impressed about the development. I'm joined on phone by Chairman Professor Reverend Emmanuel Asante for more. Good afternoon, Rev, and thanks for your time. What does the Peace Council make of the disturbing development, and what action would you be taking?
I think the former reaction will come from the Peace Council, but I have been on the phone from day one since that thing happened yesterday, from 9 until today, right from dawn until now, condemning the act. So when people say Peace Council is not spoken and all that, Peace Council is not an institution where the people are gathered in one place so that as soon as something happens, they issue a statement. It takes time for us to gather together and agree on a statement. But I have already spoken on this matter. And I have said that what happened yesterday must be condemned. It is not something that anybody should entertain. I have also indicated that the police should act swiftly to bring to book the people who have done that. And the public must have the right to know what is happening in respect of this particular kind of incident. I've also stated clearly that leaders, as leaders of this nation, both sides of the political divide, should try as much as possible to calm tension and not to inflame passion. These are the things that we have said, and it's all over the place.
So would you say...
hasn't said anything, I'm surprised.
So you believe the calls on groups of Ghanaians on the Peace Council to speak up are misplaced?
I believe what?
Do you believe that these calls on the Peace Council for a clear word on this matter are misplaced?
Listen, my brother, when you say the Peace Council should come up with a clear word, that does solve the problem that we are confronted with. 3 days before this event, the Peace Council, your media house was there, invited stakeholders, party, representatives, the police, the Minister for Security himself was there to discuss this matter of vigilante menace and the problem it poses for this nation. Did we give it the publicity that it even needs? Okay? 3 days before the event. So we've been talking about this, and we have been warning people, we have been warning political parties, particularly the two main political parties, NDC and NPP. Now, when this thing happened, people are passing the buck. NPP is saying it's NDC. NDC is saying it's NPP. But we are talking about human beings. There are people who have been shot. And the passing of the buck doesn't solve the problem.
Right.
And simply coming up to say that we condemn and all that doesn't also solve the problem. We, together with CDD and CE, are coming up as a result of the conference that was done to give a way forward to help the government to address this menace. That seems to be a very complex matter. If you ask your reporter from your media house who was there, when the study, Afrobarometer, study was presented, you could see that we have a very complicated, sophisticated matter on our hands that cannot simply be dealt with by simply issuing statements here and there, but it must be addressed carefully.
Right. I'm only
and that's
asking,
what we are seeking to do.
I'm only asking, Reverend, because not just on this occasion, on numerous occasions, the opposition party in particular has found space to criticize organizations like yourself that when it comes to matters where this government seems to be shirking its responsibility, we don't see that swift word coming from civil society, including the Peace Council.
Is this the first time you are hearing this? It seems to me that when people are in opposition, the Peace Council is not working. But when they are in government, the Peace Council is working. Isn't it the case? Is it the first time you are hearing this? Even when we have issued statements, people will come and say, we haven't seen that. As if they are not monitoring anything in the country. Okay?
You think it's a hypocritical stance by the opposition?
I'm very surprised that when people are in opposition, the police is not working. But when they are in government, there's nothing wrong with them. When people are in opposition, then all institutions are against them. It's very disheartening. And that's the reason why I'm saying that we should be talking as Ghanaians and addressing issues instead of talking on a partisan basis, as if parties should become the be-all, end-all of everything. We are Ghanaians first. And the issue confronting us in respect of what happened yesterday happened to Ghanaians.
Important
Ghanaians,
point.
We must address that issue.
Important point, Reverend. You also speak about how governments and opposition parties seem to have a different stance towards the police and other state institutions. Now, a lot of people say, and even police officers have come to say, that government seems to have some influence on the police because of the appointment of the IGP. Would you agree with this sentiment?
Yeah, I mean, when we met the 3 days ago, the kind of thing, it became clear in terms of the contributions and the things that people were saying, that the appointment of the leadership of the security agencies must be looked into, and that it is important for such people who are appointed to such positions to be given the security of tenure. You know, because this whole idea of not being able to act because of butter and bread issue, it's not helping this country. And I think that what is happening is only lending credence to the concerns that have been expressed, that there is the need for a national conference to look carefully at that, so that people who are appointed into such positions will not feel that they have to toe the line of the leadership. In that sense, nobody will be above the law in this country.
Thank you very much, Reverend Professor Asante, for joining us. He is the chairman of the National Peace Council. We stay with this issue because the Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement at CDD Ghana, Dr. Kojo Asante, has urged a review of the security protocols, which he describes as uncoordinated, excessive, and intimidating.
Yesterday was quite a strange one. There's a lot of reflection that has to be done around security arrangements for elections. I mean, Ayawaso does not normally have the characteristics of a troubled constituency to require the level of heavy security presence that was deployed yesterday. And at the end, every indication from reports from Kudeo observers is very clear that it was absolutely counterproductive. And there was issues with coordination. A lot of the security agencies were not talking to each other. They are not being prepped, together to work together. So it created even tensions among security operatives at the polls, and it's really a real worry. I mean, yesterday, if there was any sign of what is likely to come in 2020, we have, and thank God, we have ample time to try and correct these things, because we are really putting ourselves in harm's way. There's always, I mean, that case is valid, but I think what is different is that the mobilization of vigilante groups in the past. I mean, you're talking about Talensi, even Akwatia, those were the beginnings of political vigilantism. That has changed, that dynamic has changed completely in the last couple of elections. Now you have vigilante groups who have branches and so on, and there's mobilization on both sides. So if you scale what has happened in Talensi and other places up on an election day, and if you begin to signal to people that this is just basically going to be a tit for tat, then you are creating a real security problem that I don't think anybody wants to confront on that day. So there's a lot of talking that has to be done. There's a lot of assurances. I mean, for one of the things, for example, if the police or the security intelligence said, people were going to mobilize and so on, one of the things that have been done very well in the past was to be giving warnings about movement. See, that's a very important thing, about how people are going to monitor, because there are rules about monitoring. So it's not just anybody going up and say, I'm going to go and monitor elections.
So let's go now to my colleague Maxwell Agbagba, who returned to the scene of yesterday's chaos this morning to interact with some eyewitnesses. Hello, Maxwell. What have you gathered on your visits this morning?
Well, Daniel, on the ground, we've seen quite a number of bullet holes on trees, on cars, and on shops, right in front of the house of the NDC parliamentary candidate in yesterday's election, the Lalikwesi Brempong. We counted about 10 bullet holes, I should say, in total. There was one in front of the mechanic shop just about 50 meters away from his house. We also counted about 3 bullet holes on a container just opposite his house, and also a warehouse which is directly opposite the house. Also, there are some bullet holes, on the walls. There, some of the trees are also very close to the warehouse. Also, we've seen bullet holes on them. We've also seen on these, videos of minutes before, the shooting actually took place. But what happened from what we saw in the video was that some of the NDC supporters were gathered in front of the house of the parliamentary candidate yesterday. Just then, when they were there, and then the marksmen, the uniformed marksmen, came in there and demanded that they wanted to enter the house, but they did not want to give them access, and that started, the confrontation. So just when they were leaving the place, some people, some of the NDC supporters, actually tried following them. That was what sparked, the shooting. In fact, in the video, we heard about roughly about 10 gunshots, in the video. Someone ordering the marksman to shoot. We heard him shout, shoot, 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 and the gunfire, the gunshots actually continued, in that particular video, Daniel. A lot of the residents we've been speaking to, they say that they've never seen anything like that in their lives before. And yesterday, it really felt like they were in a war zone because of the numerous gunshots that.
Hello, Maxwell. Hello, Maxwell. If you can hear me, we were listening to that narration there. Right. That was Maxwell Agbagba giving us a recap of what happened yesterday as he's gathered from eyewitnesses. Now, in case you missed out on yesterday's incident, here's a recap.
It was meant to be a peaceful poll, but sadly, it took on the form and nature of an unhealthy expression of the civil rights of citizens. Masked men, shootings, fractures, fisticuffs, shouts of war from angry supporters ready to shed and lick blood.
This is the way they are going to go. We are prepared. Trust me. We are not going to take the words of any police officer. Because, my brother, the police officers were here when the shooting was ongoing. There were police officers here. And listen to me. If the police have no knowledge about this, those vagabonds drove in police officer Mowak
And they were here for close to 1 hour and more.
Somebody somewhere know what he or she is doing.
But the aftermath of this state of affairs is as worrying as the incident itself, with the two main political parties engaged in a blame game. The NDC.
Those security men were neither police nor military. They were wearing black T-shirts and they were hanging national security tags around their necks. We started getting calls of intimidation and attacks on our party agents and our party national monitoring officers. As we speak to you now, Honorable Sam George had been beaten up mercilessly and is wounded. And I understand he's been sent to hospital. I just spoke with him and he indicated to me that the butts of guns were used to hit him, and that the video is there for you to see. Number two, yesterday, our National Vice Chairman, Sofo Azoka, without any provocation at all, was attacked in his house at East Legon. And the house was vandalized, and he had to really use experience to save himself. Today is a very sad day for democracy, and the NDC as a party cannot and will not be part of this exercise.
The MPP.
The difficulty I find is that I believe it's premeditated. It is orchestrated, and therefore incidents are being blown out of proportion.
Which
in
of
that
them is
case,
premeditated? The decision to withdraw all the violence.
all of it.
And the minority in Parliament is calling for a bipartisan parliamentary probe into yesterday's violence at Ayawaso West, Wogon. A minority spokesperson on Defence and Interior, James Agalga, says the committee is meeting the IGP this afternoon and they will quiz him over it. He, however, says he's afraid the police will cover up the issue, hence his call for a bipartisan probe. Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo joins us live with more. Joseph, what's the reaction to this call from the minority?
Someone like MP for Ablekuma, Esler, who disagrees with the call for a parliamentary probe into the violence. When I asked her about it, she made the point that there were violent incidents in the Talensi election, the by-election there, the Choponi by-election, and she listed a litany of other by-elections, where she says there was no such probe, hence no need for any such probe. The issue came up again on the floor of Parliament itself. Even outside the conversation with James Agalga, when it came up, the minority leader tried drawing the attention of the Speaker to the fact that a member of Parliament was allegedly assaulted yesterday during the by-election, and that there was a need for the Minister for Interior to be brought in to respond to questions on the issue. But the Speaker stood it down and indicated that some consultation needs to happen in that regard. The minority leader said he's not letting the issue go. He will bring it up again on Tuesday and try and get the House to look into the issue generally. Again, the minority leader has been indicating in a media briefing outside Parliament that they don't recognize the outcome of the election. In fact, ABA Fuseni, who is the minority spokesperson, says that they would not accept Lydia Hassan as a member of Parliament here because the election that brought her here is illegitimate. Those have been some of the developments in connection with this in Parliament.
A few clarifications. Did the Speaker specify the mode or nature of consultations they have to carry out on this matter?
So the point was that this was not something that had been tabled as an item that the House needed to look at.
Okay.
The minority leader, by virtue of his position as leader of the House, attempted raising it, and the Speaker indicated it wasn't on the table for a conversation, and so some consultation needs to happen before any such formal request, even if it has to be done that way, is done to bring the Interior Minister in to respond to questions on the issue. Now,
you said Mr. ABA Husseini says they will not recognize Lydia Seyram Al-Hassan as a member of Parliament. They are rejecting the result of the election. Will they be making an official complaint to the Electoral Commission? They officially pulled out yesterday. Will they be calling for another election, for instance? So
he declined to give a specific response, even to the question of whether they would want a rerun of that particular election, except to insist that when it comes to what happened yesterday, they don't even see it that an election has happened at all. So for them, there is no member of parliament elect for the area. There was no election yesterday. The indication being that just maybe some other election has to happen, but they are not ready to take in any specific processes to withdraw. How come Lydia Hassan became member of parliament elect?
But has Mr. Haruna Idrisu, minority leader, indicated when he intends to carry out any such consultation so the interior minister is brought to the House?
No. The other thing we gather is that this is something that the Committee on Defense on Interior is handling. The leadership on the majority side haven't indicated whether they would even be interested in getting the interior minister to the floor to come respond to questions in connection with it. But we gather that at the level of the Defense and Interior Committee, they say they're handling it and they're getting the IGP in this afternoon to respond to questions on a myriad of issues, including what happened in Iowa and Westbrook.
Thanks, Joseph, for that update. You're still live on Joy News today. With me, Daniel Dazi. Still up ahead in the bulletin, 150 workers engaged in the construction of the Tema Interchange Thursday morning laid down their tools over poor working conditions.
Workers have been agitating about.
More on that when we come back. Thanks for staying with us. This is Joy News Today. Now, 150 workers taking part in the construction of the Tema Interchange Thursday morning put down their tools over poor working conditions. The workers say their issues range from non-payment of state contribution to meager salaries. The workers were, however, unsuccessful in grievances through a union. They got agitated when 4 workers had their contracts terminated over alleged insubordination. Correspondent Kwame Yanka has filed this report.
The Tema Interchange project, funded by the Japanese government, started last year and is expected to be completed and handed over next year. Different companies were engaged to recruit workers for the project. The 150 workers were previously under a different management, were later transferred to PMS International Mainstay in November. The aggrieved workers have been agitating about poor working conditions, which they believe their new employer is not addressing. They have issues relating to salary payments, SNIT contributions, medical care, among other benefits, which they believe the company can resolve if it decides to. The workers say the earlier the issues are resolved, the better.
And if the government doesn't interfere in this issue, the work will never go on again. We, the workers, are laying off and we will never work. And if DICA also never come in, as the Japanese embassy never comes in, this work will never move on anymore.
6-month contract with them, Shimizu. They say they transfer us to PMS. PMS, we don't know the PMS boss. The very day we set eye on her was this week Monday that she came and gave us termination letter.
The same thing, NSC cycle. Mama Tamuso, the same thing is cycle. Subcontract. Omu workers in this car. Mama to America, Emma, Omuja, subcontract. After Omuchia, any policy can Emma through the company.
Meanwhile, country director for PMS International Mainstay, Joanna Boatin, says the company is already addressing issues raised. She said the affected workers do not want to conform to lay-down procedures.
We were handling some 45 other people. Before this, 150 people were offloaded to us. And we've done whatever we can do to ensure that it is done. I mean, when they were offloaded to me in November, I realized they were not having contracts. And I stated clearly that if you don't have a contract, I will not work with you. I gave each of them contracts. Some of them refused to sign. I have told them time without number that I want to pay them salaries through their account. And they said no, they don't want it. They want tabletop salary payment. And it's not done. We've been trying to explain to workers. But you know, all the time is about our union boss says this, our union boss says that. We are not telling anybody not to form union, but being in a union doesn't mean that we should be rowdy. I am there as your contact person. If you have any problem, you come to me. But we've sorted all these issues out. At the end of the day, we showed it to them, and now the issues actually moved from SNIT, it's moved from health, it's moved from reward to food.
Kwame Yanka's report for Joy News.
Now, the lack of ICT facilities in schools has been considered a problem for rural communities, but it appears the challenge is playing out strongly right here in Accra, where many schools do not have computers for ICT training. And the Independence Avenue Junior High School is no exception. Well, the Accra Central Library is now providing students of the school the opportunity to learn about computers. Henry Kwesi Bedu followed Deputy Minister of Education, Dr. Yao Osei Educhum, to take a tour of the facility and met the student.
Inside the Accra Central Library, a platoon of workers are milling to and fro, fixing the facility. Painters on the walls, masons doing some plastering work, and a few laborers assisting. Elsewhere inside the library, there is the ICT corner, and here dozens of school children from the Independence Avenue Junior High School are seated behind the computers. They've got their teachers with them to provide assistance. With no ICT centers in their school, this library offers a perfect venue to learn about computers. Deputy Minister of Education, Dr. Yao Osei Educhum, interacted with them.
Help you get a computer lab so that you don't always have to come, when you come here, you should come and read and do some other things. So I'll come to you.
The Ghana Library Authority has launched a campaign to boost reading across Ghana. Acting Director Hefo Tiang speaks about this.
The Ghana Library Authority, as part of its strategic objective to support quality education in Ghana, has declared 2019 as the year of reading under the theme Reading for Progress. We strongly believe that as an authority, our mandate, of course, is to establish, equip, manage, and maintain public libraries in Ghana. But we cannot just have our collections on the shelves without getting people aware of what we have and the opportunity that exists on our shelves. And so this is why we thought it very appropriate that at this time, and as a prelude to also our 70-year anniversary, declaring 2019 as a year of reading to encourage people to know about the new transformation, the new materials that we are having on our shelves so that they can patronize it. We can buy as many books as possible and put on our shelves, but if people are not utilizing it, then we might not have, invested properly. And so that is why we want to get people aware about the existence of libraries across the country. We have 61 of them, and we are adding 15 new more libraries that have collapsed because they were not managed by us, but have been built by MPs, district assemblies, and NGOs. But because they did not tell us about it, they've not been managed properly and have closed down. And so we are absorbing, some of these libraries, and we cannot just absorb them without, making publicity about it and for people to know that there is opportunity that exists in their neighborhoods for them to be able to have a place that they can go and borrow books. So this is why we've declared 2019 as a year.
Still live on Joy News today with me, Daniel Dazi. Still up ahead in business. GRA's revenue mobilization drive gets a boost as transfer pricing contributes more than $400 million to last year's revenue. All that and more when Daryl joins us with more after this.